In 2017, I, 25 female, saw a couples therapist with my then boyfriend, 36. After 3 sessions with her, I refused to return due to her blatant flirtatious behavior and extremely judgmental attitude toward me, which my ex-boyfriend called me delusional for pointing out. She had told me that I seemed too immature, not ready for therapy or a serious relationship. The whole thing was focused on my ex-boyfriend and his complaints about me. She never asked about my feelings or perspective in the relationship. We broke up about 2 months after the sessions, but I stayed living with my ex-boyfriend until November. Once after I moved out, I had to return to our old apartment to get mail. This was in December, and that was the first time I saw the therapist with my ex. They happened to be getting ready to go out on his motorcycle and were both wearing full-face motorcycle helmets. But I knew from her body type and her hair that it was her, along with my instincts, which suspected something was going on the whole time. But nevertheless, I moved on with my life. I just found out yesterday my ex got married due to a friend telling me about a photo he posted on Facebook. The photo was of him and my ex-therapist celebrating their 1-year wedding anniversary. I found my Facebook with the name change, and sure enough, they got married September of 2018. Or earlier, that's just when she posted the wedding photos. This was less than a year after the breakup with my ex, and barely over a year after our sessions with her ended. I am considering filing a complaint with the American Counseling Association. My friends and mental health counselors I know say I have enough evidence. I am not upset that my ex-boyfriend moved on. So have I. I thank the universe every day that I am no longer with that narcissist. However, I feel deeply disturbed to find out he married our therapist, especially remembering all the harmful stuff she said to me in the sessions, which, to be honest, really messed with my head. I fear coming off as a bitter ex. Am I the a-hole? Update. So, one of my friends has basically taken it upon herself to investigate this therapist. I swear she should be in the FBI, LOL. She found out that this is the 3rd last name that this woman has practiced psychotherapy with. Under the first last name in 2014, she was charged with a DUI with property damage. She also comes up on health grades with 5 1-star reviews and an overall 3-star rating. Essentially, what this new information does for me is confirm that she has been a crappy human being with crappy morals for quite some time. There's no way this is the first time she has caused undue harm to a client. Therefore, I can say with certainty that I am reporting. I realize that as the ex, it is pretty much impossible for it not to seem like I'm jealous, petty, bitter, whatever you want to say. However, it is also impossible to have sat in those sessions and then see your therapist and ex get married and have zero feelings about it, regardless of having moved on. So 2 major parts of my life converged recently, and I'm just devastated and question pretty much all of my actions. Hence, why I'm posting here, because I may be acting awful to 2 people I love dearly. So part 1 is Tammy, my best friend since elementary school. She is literally my sister. We have done pretty much everything together. Same college, same dorm, roommates, confidants, sloppy drunk mates, you name it. I love her so much. Part 2 is Gregory, my college boyfriend. I love him as well, but we just could never make things work. Had one of those hot mess relationships which are a combination of torture and bliss. We have dated off and on since freshman orientation. All of us are 27 now, but usually end up in flames. I always loved him so much that I'd hoped we'd mature and be able to make things work. He moved to a different city after college, but we'd stayed in touch, send flirty texts, and even went on vacation twice. We got along great as long as we both had our own places to retreat to, if that makes sense. All along, we both had dating lives, and to be fair, I never told him about my long-term idea that we'd be together. A year ago, Tammy moved to a city about 30 minutes away from Gregory. She was having a really hard time meeting people, so I told her since she knew Gregory so well, she should call him and see if he can introduce her to his group of friends. She did, and I knew she was much happier. About 3 months after that, the flirty texts from Gregory just stopped out of the blue, which isn't that big of a deal because it's happened before. But looking back, I should have known what was coming. Tammy just came home for the weekend and said she was making a special trip just to see me. Of course, I was super excited to see her. She came over and she just seemed a little off. First, she told me she was pregnant. After we got past the shock and established she was happy in keeping the baby, I was elated to be an aunt. Then she said there's more, and this is really hard. I about died when she said the baby is Gregory's. She apologized and said she was so sorry, they had just hit it off and they didn't mean to do anything to hurt me, and they even tried breaking up for my sake, but they just realized there was too much of an attraction and they started dating. She hadn't planned on getting pregnant, but now that she is, they are getting married. She said she hoped this didn't hurt me, and she always dreamed about me being her maid of honor, and there's no one else she's ever asked. I tried to keep my cool, but I just lost it. I wasn't mad at her, just really sad. I told her that I loved her, but I just couldn't be around her right now, and no way could I even go to their wedding, let alone be in the wedding party. She said she was sorry about 1,000,000 times as she was leaving, and she texted me quite a bit wanting to see me before she left town on Sunday. I just couldn't do it. I literally cried all weekend. Here's the thing. If I were never in the picture, they make a perfect couple. Perfect. Tammy's brand of fiery is a much better match to Gregory's calm nature than mine. They are both gorgeous and smart and great with kids. If two people should be hooking up to be great partners and parents, it's those two. I just can't help being hurt. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to be her maid of honor? The thing that people seem most confused by is the timeline, and honestly, I was wrong in my OP. Tam and I only talked for maybe 10 minutes on Friday evening, so there is a lot I don't know. But I went through my text and such, and this is the best I can put together. June 2017. Gregory took me to Hawaii. That is the last time I saw him. We texted maybe 2-3 times a week. May 2018. Tammy gets her job and moves to new city. We text or call easily a combined 100 times a day or more. Late July 2018. Tammy confesses that she's really lonely. All her coworkers are older and she's seriously thinking about quitting and moving back. I tell her she should call Greg. She doesn't have his number, so I give it to her. I still keep getting flirty, but nothing overt from Gregory in this time period. August 2018. I start a project at my job, promotions company, setting up for a December event for an A/B list celebrity. It's literally make or break for my company and my career. I work 16-hour day minimums and basically go off the grid. Greg still texts occasionally, and I keep missing Tammy's calls. September 2018. Last text from Greg. Like I said, no big deal. I didn't even see this until today, but Tammy texted me, "Please call me as soon as possible. We really need to talk about something." This adds a whole new element to the story, but I can't believe I forgot or missed the text. I respond to another text of hers later in the day, kind of bitchy. "Hey, you know, I'm busy. Give me some time to breathe." Another piece I forgot until I dug into my texts. She may have taken this as a message I wasn't ready. I assume this is when they first hooked up. September to December. We still miss each other, and honestly don't think I talked to her, and looking back, she texted about 5 times to every one of my responses, and if I read it right, she initiated all conversations. I wasn't a very good friend. My event goes off pretty well, and then I immediately leave for an overseas vacation with my family. January. We still didn't talk at all, but I didn't think much of it. Friday the 1st. She drops the news in person she's been pregnant for about 2 weeks and getting married in April. So that's the timeline. Not sure if it clears anything up, but it looks like Tam may have reached out to me at least once. I posted the original on Tuesday morning. I pretty much couldn't focus on anything else, so I took the rest of the week off to have a self-pity party. That wasn't working, so I just decided screw it. I'm going to drive 7 hours to see Tammy and just tell her how I was feeling. I texted her on the way, and she said she was happy I was coming. I really wanted to address all the very good questions you good people had brought up in my post from Tuesday. So I got there, and we basically hugged hello, and I have to admit I was very happy to see her. What was so ducking weird is it was obvious Gregory was living in her place now. I don't even know why I hadn't even thought about this, but he's a pretty messy dude. So when I saw cereal bowls on the coffee table and socks on the floor, crap that used to drive me up the wall, I was like, wow, this is real. Thank God Greg wasn't there, and Tammy apologized that she just didn't feel good enough to clean up before she heard I was coming. So our conversation basically centered around what happened and why she never told me. At first, she was kind of talking around it, to spare my feelings, and I got sort of frustrated with her and told her to please just tell me what happened. So it turns out they went out as a group right after I gave her Greg's number, and they just had an immediate attraction. They said that for the first few times they hung out, it was all just reminiscing about our college days and never mentioned the attraction. I guess about 2 weeks of hanging out, they kissed for the first time, and she was so pissed at herself she blocked his number and didn't see him for almost a month. I guess she got lonely again. They ran into each other and admitted they had real feelings. She said she texted me and told me she wanted to talk about it right after they agreed to start dating. I found this out on my own on Tuesday after going through my texts, but since I was so busy, I wasn't very nice to her. But she knew I was busy and really wavered on interrupting the most important time in my professional career, first telling me some very hard-to-swallow news. She said rightly or wrongly, she decided to tell me in person when she saw me again. Fast forward a little bit. I guess they're so serious they talked about eloping after only 2 months, and were pretty much living together. She said they had a drunken New Year's Eve party and just weren't careful, and that's when she assumed she got pregnant. She said she knew then that it was an in-person conversation she had to have with me. Her first free weekend was last weekend. So I basically responded to all of this by saying I just didn't know how to feel. That in my brain, I knew Gregory and I were not compatible, but my heart always hoped we'd grow up and be able to make it work. And she was my best friend. And I basically hooked them up. And I just don't know how to deal with all this. I know it's over, but even seeing his crap on her floor was sort of painful. Honestly, that would have been a massive fight between Greg and I. Like I said, Tammy is much more chill. I told her that I would always love her and always be her friend, but an April wedding is probably just too soon to be involved in a wedding party. She said she totally understood. We talked about the elephant in the room for maybe 20 more minutes, but honestly, we were just talking in circles, saying the same thing over and over again. So we just sort of moved on to how she was feeling, how work was going, me apparently wearing some sort of man repellent because I can't even hook up on Tinder and all the other things friends usually talk about. Tammy is in full-blown morning sickness, so she must have barfed 15 times in the first 2 hours of me being there. At first, I just let her do her thing, but then I felt really bad because we've been friends for over 20 years and I'm not even helping her. So I went in and helped her put her hair in a ponytail and rubbed her back. And that's when it hit me. That I would absolutely regret it and never be able to forgive myself if I weren't there for her wedding, pregnancy, and having a baby, no matter who she was marrying. We went to lunch, and at that point, I told her I was sorry. I was being selfish, and I would be her maid of honor. She said no way was I being selfish, but would never have another maid of honor besides me. It's not going to be the easiest thing in my life, but I can't not do it. So we went back to her apartment, and Gregory was home. Suddenly, I felt like such an idiot because I couldn't possibly be in their wedding, let alone ever be around the two of them together. That was the most awkward hello I've ever had in my life, and thank God he'd cleaned up because I was just amped up with nerves to scream at him like I would have in the past. We sort of awkwardly sat on the couch, not saying much, but after a few minutes, I just started telling myself again to grow up. Don't let my own feelings get in the way of two people who may really belong together. Seeing them in person together is even more saccharine sweet than I thought possible. They are perfect for each other. Gregory is supportive. I don't know how many times I had to claim best friend privileges when she got sick over loving fiancé privilege. And sweet, and she's far more tolerant of him than I could ever possibly be. It was still hard for the rest of the evening, but I think it will get better with time. I decided again I would be in their wedding. We had dinner, and I got a hotel because even though I'm trying, I'm not ready to sleep in the same house as them. Tammy has to work today, so I'm just hanging out before I see her for lunch, then I'm going to drive back home. We have a long way to go, but I'm so glad I came to see her because at the very least we saw each other and talked it out, and I'm very happy that I'm going to be involved in these major life events for her. Edit 2. I totally passed out last night, so I didn't get to participate like I would have. I have to jump in and defend Tammy. Maybe no one will see this because it's probably time this fades. Maybe no one will believe me, but for all the criticism of her, there's a good explanation that can most likely be explained away by me being a bad writer or not wanting this to be a narcissistic novel. For example, I saw someone saying Tammy should have called after the first kiss. I've known her for so long to know that she knows I can be very irrational and angry. I alluded to it in the other post, but I had to do a year of anger management therapy because I can be like dynamite when I get pissed. I'm way better now, but she probably has legit PTSD from some of my freakouts. And she figured it was a one-time thing, so why poke the bear if that makes sense? Secondly, I can't stress enough how busy I was last fall. Not an exaggeration to say I was working 16 plus hours a day, with maybe a day off every 20 to 30 days. I was planning a huge event that centered around a true narcissist, and he would have me on the phone, texting questions and answers all day long. The last thing I wanted to do in my time off was get on my phone. I can count from that period, and I'd say it averages 10 to 1 of Tammy texting me. I assume calls were worse. But one stretch I think I counted she texted me 40 times before I texted her back. It's bad timing more than anything, because any one of those may have been when she wanted to tell me, and I definitely appreciate her thoughtfulness of not wanting to spring it on me while I was losing my mind from lack of sleep at work. I agree with her that this was an in-person conversation anyways. I know Tammy is just an internet sprite to all but one of you, but she is a real person who has been my ride or die since we were 10 and 11. We've fought, screwed each other over so many times, and we've always forgiven each other because having her in my life is way more important than pining over a guy I spent most of my time frustrated with anyways. Don't get me wrong, I'm still pining, and I cried last night over this. But like so many people said, maybe Tam Tam's best gift to me as a friend was forcing me to get on with crap. Maybe 10 years and 40 plus breakups and just as many broken dishes and slammed doors, she was the sign the universe sent to me to move on from a guy who wasn't right for me. I decided to wait a bit until the actual wedding so I could do one final update. Wedding was yesterday, and it was actually a great time. It wasn't without hard feelings. I still very much had feelings for Greg, and those feelings came out in me getting very frustrated with him when he wouldn't return emails or phone calls about what he wanted to do. But Tammy was much more patient and kind with him, and it really reinforced that, feelings or not, he's not the guy for me. The ceremony yesterday was small and very beautiful, and they are so in love with each other it's almost sickening. I cried my eyes out, both out of happiness for them, but also after close to 10 years off and on, Greg and I are officially over. It's never happening, and that's a good thing, but still worthy of tears. On a good note, my dry spell with men continues, and I didn't even get laid as the maid of honor at my best friend's wedding. Yay! All of Greg's friends were married or serious, and Tammy's brothers are off limits. The awesome guy who danced with me all night long was amazing in every way, but I guess my pee wasn't big enough for him to be attracted to me. The only single available guy was Greg's 65-year-old uncle, who gave me a ride on his Harley motorbike, but even that fell through, and I'm about to hit the Embassy Suites breakfast by myself.